Hello YouTube, Bill Griffith back again. Today I'm going to show you how to collimate the HyperStar with the NextStar SC 8 SC telescope and using the Hotech Advanced SCT tool. So I showed how to do this with the non-HyperStar, and so now I'm going to do it with the HyperStar. So this is currently in collimation, and what you'll see when I go here to the three dots, you'll see that all three dots, let me get my screwdriver here, all three dots, the red dots, are on the same ring. And then also, if you look inside of the eyepiece there, you'll see that the bullseye is aligned. You will see them all as one. If I jump over here and adjust the focus wheel, when I do that, you'll start to see that those start to separate out quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is walk through how this is done. You can maybe see that those three dots are all not together, right? That means out of focus. Okay, so let me show you how I do this by starting from scratch. Okay, so the first thing is to so I'm going to turn this off and just adjust it so this is all out of whack. I'm going to set it back to vertical right here, go back here. So I'm adjusting the little knobs here. You can see that makes it vertical. I also adjust the height of the tripod that this Hotech is on. And so just sort of get it all sort of vertical lined. Now this, my telescope, my Celestron 8 SC, I have it in its home position where I know that the optical tube is straight along this tripod leg. So then I take this other tripod and line it up. I'm actually on hardwood floor, so I can see the hardwood floor seam, and so I line that up there. Now the distance says my telescope is 16 inches long, and so I have this at 26 inches away. You can be somewhere in 16 to maybe 26. When I had it at 34, then it actually, the dots were off of the Hotech here. So now you set it like this, and then what you want to do is move this up, and then I turn it to the 1 setting. So let me get my reading glasses here. So turn it to 1 and you start to see a line here. So what I'm doing is I see it on the wall. I don't know if you can see here. So I see a crosshair on the wall, which is above the scope. So now I drop it down to where it's centered on the eyepiece. See there? So I have that. And what I'm trying to do here is get this flush or square with the scope. And what I have to do is adjust this tripod here, as well as my telescope has polar alignment. This moves it left and right, and then this moves it up and down because this is a polar aligned mount. You can also use the hand controller here and just move it around. And so what I have to do is a little back and forth to get that centered. So once I do that, I can actually take off the take off the mount here. Let's take off the HyperStar. So here's the HyperStar taken off, and that allows me to get it square more easily. What I'm looking for is for the crosshair here. So that's not up enough. I'm gonna move it up, then tilt it. Now I'm gonna tilt it forward. That's not right. So it is off. That's too high. So, and this is sort of a back and forth until you get it set up. So I start to see a little bit of the crosshair up here. So I can take it up. There, so. All right, now I'm adjusting the tripod. Now I can use my vertical axis of my polar align, and I move it down. Okay, so now you see that gets the vertical. Now let's move it left and right. Now I need to tilt. There you go. So I'm tilting it with the little screw in front, and you see that it starts to build a cross. Okay, so now I go back over here to my polar line screws, and I'm moving it left and right. And what you'll also note is that the length is off. They're not the same, so this cross is not centered well enough. So I'm going to physically move the legs more to where that's almost symmetrical cross. Right, so moving the telescope left and right to get it in the center of the bullseye, that's not gonna work if the cross is not symmetrical. A little back and forth, so that's not horrible. Now what I'm gonna do is move it this way. Now what I'm trying to do is get the outside length of these lines to be about the same. So that's on the one little past 1.5, or actually inside of that 5, the 6 and the 1, the same over here. And the top is a little bit too high. So I'm going to move my scope down. Now I'm looking to get the cross all relatively the same length. So now it's off. So the bottom ring, the crosshair is too low and the top one is not, even though the center piece is, the center hash mark is centered. So that means that I need to adjust maybe the height. So I'm gonna loosen up the scope. I'm gonna go up a little bit. All right, so now let's tighten that down. Okay, now let me move the scope back up and adjust left and right. Okay. So move the scope. Now I need to adjust the tripod here. So I'm going to move it left and right. And what I want is for all of those to be on the same. So that's almost one, that's almost one. So that's not far off. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit more, get that more centered. Okay, so that's about right. And what that means by about right is that this outer ring is the same place as this one, which is the same place as this one, which is the same place as this one. So they're all on the same place. Okay, so I had to put my secondary mirror back on so I could get the lengths of all of these hash marks to be the same size. With the HyperStar in there, I couldn't tell that the length of the hash mark, so the inside and the outside both matching on both sides, the corrector plate was not centered, so that those were different lengths. So I put the secondary mirror in there, and that blocks the the reflection here so that it sets the length of the inside, and the outside is the outside of the scope, and then the inside is blocked by this. So now that I have the corrector plate largely centered, okay, so now I can take the HyperStar. You can, so let's just go all the way down, loosen these pins up, I loosen them and pull it down to where that's flush, pull this one down to where it's flush. And you want them all relatively snug. Okay, now they're all tight, it won't move, so I know that it's good. Now, this is, when you get the HyperStar, you'll get an extra little piece here with the reflective mirror. So I put that on the front, and then it actually has an adapter. If you don't, when you buy this adapter from Hotech, this by itself won't fit. You also need a little adapter. So you put these two together, and then that will allow you to mount this reflective piece onto it. So just like that. Then what I did is take off the secondary eyepiece. You see there, that's taken off. And the nice thing is that the Hotech comes with a nice little case. So I just put the, take the Hotech out, and you'll see that the secondary mirror fits in there. There's a nice groove. And then you take the ring that went on top of the secondary mirror and tighten it down. Okay, now I screw in the Hotech. My ring actually slipped, so I actually used some super glue to get it to stop slipping, because when I would put this in, it would get stuck. So now I put a little super glue, and now that will screw. I don't tighten it super tight because, again, it so snug, not ratchet it down, but snug. Okay, so now I have that on. I can take this eyepiece part out, and now that's this piece. I take that out, and now what you'll see is the cross. Let's see if you can see that. Okay, so now you see the cross, and what you see is that the cross is a little bit off. So what you can do is use the pins or a screwdriver to adjust the pins of the HyperStar. These pins here. So what we're trying to do is move these left and right to get them adjusting that cross. So I go in here and I'm loosening one on the left, loosening them, loosen the long one, and now tightening the short one. Then I go around, loosen the far left one, and in fact I need to tighten the far left one. You see the cross moved a little bit left, and loosen the fat one, or the short one. Now I loosen the short one on the top and tighten the long one. Okay, so that's not off by much. Let's adjust a little bit more. Now I just pushed a little bit on the tight one. So that's good. Now let's tighten that one. Okay, so now what you see is it's perfectly centered in there. Okay, so after back and forth with my Allen key in the side and the HyperStar without the bullseye, I finally have it, the cross centered in the Hotech with it on setting 1. So now I'm going to put this on. Okay, so that's good. So now what we can do, and this is still on the first setting. Now I put this piece in, which is this piece. I put it on the front of the HyperStar. Okay, and now my rings are a little bit off. So what I'm gonna do is adjust the height a little bit. There we go. And maybe move it a little bit left or right. Centered up there. And I'm gonna change it up here to DT, wherever that is. Okay, so I turn it to DT on mine, and you'll see that I have this laser reflecting over to here, but the others are not on there. So, and if you look at the front of the scope, you'll see 3 dots that aren't centered. That means it's out of focus. So what I'm going to do is turn the focus knob until those dots show up on the screen. So I'm turning pretty rapidly now, and you see that they are now coming onto the screen. So, and if I look in the center, I'll see that those 3 dots are converging on one spot. And they're all together into one dot. That means it's in focus. However, it's not perfectly in the center of the bullseye, nor are these on the same ring. So what I can do is use my Allen key here and move the corrector plate left and right. So here's the corrector plate. I have these little screws, and so I'm just adjusting them left and right until those 3 dots are on the same ring. Okay, so now I put the Hotech on. Everything is flush on the screws there, and the centerpiece is in, and you'll see that I have the 3 dots. They are not on the same center, so I'm going to adjust these screws, pull and pushes, until they get centered up here for me. And if I look in my bullseye here, I see that 3 dots are centered on each other, meaning the focus is correct. but the dots are not lined up. So now I'm going to adjust the pull and push screws. So loosening, tightening. All right, now loosen, tighten. Getting there, loosen. Okay, so after a lot of fiddling, I had to move back and forth. I got all 3 dots there, as well as the center dot aligned. So it just takes a lot of finagling. Keep adjusting these, keep adjusting the squareness of this, using these and this to tilt it, and then use the the polar alignment screws. And so you just keep back and forth until you get it like this. All right, hope this is helpful.